following gets an up-to-date analysis.
Of course, it's still this morning on ITV or Abuja. Thank you for, of course, bringing the news report segment on TMI. And we'll start right away with the first discussion on our program this morning, and it is on aviation. And of course, at the weekend, a very, very tragic crash happened involving Russian airplane, killing 71 passengers on board. 65 passengers and six members of crew, total 71, and all of them died. And well, the investigation is still ongoing, and from unconfirmed report, we were told that it's a collusion with another airplane. Immediately, the plane took off, which is why the plane disappeared from the radar. That's on one hand. On the other hand is the fact that Dana airplane again did not close the door when, of course, it took off also at the weekend, and we've been getting, explanation from experts and freaks of aviation. Some say, well, it's just that God is really with them. Some say perhaps it didn't come across with a very stormy weather, and explanations are just here and there. Okay, I have with me your number one aviation freak in Nigeria, who also doubles as a licensed estate surveyor and valuer, Mr. Godwin Ike. A very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Joe.
Good morning. How's your weekend?
Wonderful, wonderful as always.
Yes, let's start with
right.
Dana.
My dear viewers, please welcome to the program. Yeah.
So the Dana is top, and then we'll go to international, where that Russian airplane crashed, killing 71 on board.
Yeah, Joe, the story about Dana door falling off on touchdown is mysterious. Mysterious in the sense that, first of all, I didn't quite get which way the door fell. Did it fall on the outside, right on the floor? Then one would be able to try to figure out what could have happened. Or did it fall into the cabin, depending on the orientation and installation of the door. Well, let me explain to you something that my viewers and everybody around the world watching now must understand about what happens up there in the air. The atmospheric pressure we have on Earth that enables you and I to take in our breath. The fact that you're able to do this is because of the awesome technology that God Himself put on Earth. So we have atmospheric pressure right here where we are that's making it possible for us to breathe in and out. Now, as you go up into the skies, this pressure thins out, reduces, up until you get into space where you even have none at all. Now, what happens is that when an airplane leaves this place where we are and is soaring into the skies to about 30,000 feet, the thin atmospheric pressure there is no more able to sustain life. And so, in order to have those in the cabin, able to breathe and stay alive for the duration of their flight, the cabin needs to be pressurized in order to seem to be like the way it is on the ground, where we are meant to be and are meant to survive. So, by so pressurizing the cabin, everything in there, including the doors, the windows, are under very high pressure. So, should anything really happen to any of those doors, and there is a possibility of the door falling to the outside, it could have happened up in the air, because it's as easy as pump, it leaves, it falls away. And then what happens next, Joe? anybody in that aircraft that is not strapped with his or her seatbelt will simply be lifted and floating in the cabin, heading towards that hole created. They will all be sucked out of that airplane one after the other. That's what will happen. You have no control over it. The force is so awesome that you can't stop yourself not leaving the airplane through that open window because of the pressure differential. You're inside a pressurized cabin with an environment surrounding the airplane that has little or no
So you are
pressure.
saying that despite the fact that you fasten your seatbelt, that will withstand the continuous pressure?
No. What I'm saying is that if you were strapped, and that's why it's advised that anytime you're seated, please have your seatbelt strapped. If you're strapped, then the possibility of that, sudden collapse, in the cabin pressure, because that's what happens when the door falls away. There's a sudden, collapse. The tendency is for the thing to lift you. Yes. So if you're strapped, your strap holds you down. But those that are not strapped will leave their seats and head out to the hole and suck out of the airplane.
For those who may be strapped,
yeah.
If that pressure continues, will the belt withstand the pressure?
Oh yeah. It's the belts are strong enough to keep you down. It will inconvenience you. It might hurt you, because of the pressure the belt mounts on you as the attempt to lift you off your seat is taking place. And of course, naturally, what usually happens is that once there is that depressurization of the cabin, pilots are trained to immediately, take a dive to come low enough, nearer to the atmospheric pressure to enable human beings. And before then, automatically, your oxygen mask will drop off. It's already programmed in the airplane that, once the cabin pressure comes down to a certain unacceptable limit, they deploy immediately. And so what the passengers must do immediately is to put the oxygen mask so that you can get some oxygen, that keeps you alive for just 12 minutes in order for the pilot to take the necessary dive and rapidly to rapidly, first of all, lose altitude and come to about, say, 10,000 or thereabout, or 15,000 feet, close enough to the atmospheric pressure, because in 12 minutes, the oxygen inside the airplane will be exhausted. That oxygen is not there. It's not there for all times. It's just for a limited time to sustain life while the pilot does the needful by leaving, where
the heights
and come down low enough to have enough atmospheric pressure, to sustain life. That's what happens. But let's go back again to the possibility of what could have happened to the door. Now, what I'm saying in effect is that if that door was installed to fall to the outside, then nothing of such happened in the mid-air, because if such a thing had happened in the mid-air, the door would have been blown out of the way. And of course, the cabin would have been suddenly depressurized and a lot of emergency situation would have ensued. That's what would have happened. On the other way, if the door were installed to open up to the inside, there again, there's absolutely no possibility of that door falling to the inside, because the pressurized cabin, even if the door was loose, the pressurized cabin will keep the doors, in place. So what I'm suspecting, if truly the door fell out, then it couldn't have fallen to the outside. It might have fallen to the inside, in which case it had issues, I wouldn't know until I inspect the airplane and know what issues they had. I wouldn't know what issues, but ultimately it had issues, but kept in place by the cabin pressure until. Well, hold on, let me land quickly. Until it got down, touched down, and then the pressurized cabin, of course, is now the natural atmospheric pressure. So you have now at this time more pressure on the surrounding the plane than on the inside of the cabin. So that natural phenomenon just pushed the door and then got it off the way. Whatever happens, something was wrong.
Yeah, now the next question is, with the way airplanes are built with, the best of ICT, how is it possible that it didn't indicate?
No, it could have
on the cockpit that
it could have indicated.
The main door and the only door was not.
It could have indicated, but I'll tell you what, Joe. Especially for the older airplanes, such as the one being flown today by Dana, the whole place is so clustered with little clocks of equipment, that sometimes pilots lose sight of what they should see. Really, unlike modern airplanes that have glass cockpit where all these instruments have been integrated into what is known as primary, primary flight display. Usually fondly known as PFD. With a primary flight display on a glass cockpit, you have everything right, in one spot, staring at the pilot. So a quick look at the systems will quickly show you what's happening. But for the older airplanes where you have all those small clocks of equipment, the six major compulsory flying instruments that the pilots require. I thought, you remember when I taught the cockpit instruments? You remember that? I taught you about the basic flying instruments in the cockpit. There are 6 of them. And so, you have the altimeter, for instance. You have your compass, altitude indicator, turn coordinator, and all those stuff. Those 6 basic ones. You have them in small clocks, littered all over the place on the cockpit with knobs and lightings. Awful. Those old model airplanes are really praise pilots who flew, between the 50s and the 60s. It was really awful to fly. But these days, with modern airplanes and glass cockpit, things have been made easier for pilots.
Especially with the instrument landing system.
That's correct.
Now, let's quickly go foreign, where, of course, you're also aware, and we got your input on the platform, which of course we say most times you need to belong to that platform. His profile will be on the screen. You take the number, and of course you WhatsApp him, telling him that you need to be on the ITV Aviation Club platform on WhatsApp, where of course we took a look at what happened in Russia. The plane, we're told, disappeared from the radar shortly after it took off, and 71 passengers on board perished. Yeah,
Joe, that was only about 45 miles from the airport, so less than 5 minutes flight, and the plane disappeared. Now the speculation right now is that a helicopter found its way on the flight path of that airplane, and there was an air collision. That is not been confirmed. Fortunately, the black boxes have been found, and they will be analyzed by experts out there, and then the real cause of that unfortunate crash will be determined. As soon as that happens, we'll have more correct, analysis of what happened, if the pilot had a chance of avoiding, that accident or not. And until that happens, anything we say now will be speculative. The speculation, has been there that there was a collision, and it was between that airplane and the helicopter. You remember the day we were discussing about this, the grounding of a helicopter said to be belonging to one of the governors, in this country. Remember my take on it when I said that helicopter was an intruder in the air. For any airplane to move from point A to point B, its flight plan is drawn, its path is known. Other airplanes in the vicinity are aware that that path is being assigned to a particular airplane that is already soaring away to the altitude given. And then if you now suddenly find some planless airplane in the name of a helicopter that is not expected to be in a particular vicinity, crisscrossing, the likelihood is what has just happened. That brings us to when one of the governors in this country, was busy moving around, in a helicopter that endangered lives. It's exactly this sort of thing that has happened in Russia that could have happened in Nigeria had we been unfortunate to have such a coincidence take place. You remember that time I described that helicopter as an intruder in the air, because for every flight there must be a flight plan. The control tower, the dispatchers will have known exactly what you plan to do, how you plan to move, what altitude you're going to be maintaining, and of course the control tower will also be sure of what you're doing. And it's a business of the pilot to stick strictly to your assigned altitude and flight path. And so that is a way to keep us safe. But once in a while.
But with this unconfirmed report of Russian Postal Service helicopter colliding with the plane, I know from what I've heard from experts and of course freaks like you, plane and helicopter have different altitude whenever they're on air. So how come the plane is at the same altitude with
Joe, you're forgetting something.
With the helicopter?
That explains why it was less than 5 minutes of flight when it took place. Yes, true. There's a maximum limit that helicopter can reach. But remember, an airplane that took off from the ground has all the heights to transcend until he gets to the assigned altitude of about 35,000 feet above sea level. Between the ground and that level, you have the middle way where helicopters exist.
But even pilot too, they see through the screen.
Well, yeah, you are supposed to, if your airplane is equipped with the appropriate equipment, you're supposed to have an indication that something is on your path and that you are on a collision course with some object somewhere. And usually that equipment will inform one pilot to descend and inform the other to ascend in order to separate them, vertically. You understand? But a situation where the airplane doesn't have one installed or has one that is faulty, there's no way. If you're going up into the cloud, you look through the windshield of the cockpit, you won't see anything. You will only be looking at your instruments to make sure that your heading is correct and that your angle of ascent is correct. And that's all you're going to be seeing. And then the assumption is that the control tower has kept everybody else away from your assigned path. So if some intruder comes on your path, Joe, you won't.
But for Russia being what it is, very conscious of security, how come it allows,
I cannot
in the skies without properly assigned route to take.
Joe, from the history of air accidents in Russia, one can safely conclude that Russia is a little careless, in the aviation sector. Around the world, they seem to have the worst, air accidents that's ever been recorded. And it's an indication that they haven't really taken aviation as seriously as they should. They probably concentrate more on military jets, chasing America. Whatever America does, they want to do something that is better, that is faster, that is, deadlier. Those kind of arms race. But when it comes to, civil, do you know there was a time some individual that had just a few weeks of training about how to move, simulator training, by the way, of how to move an airplane up, up in the skies. Pretended to be a pilot and really actually got engaged by an airline. Yes. His first flight with some innocent passengers. He got to his destination, but didn't know how to follow his glide slope to glide down for touchdown. By the time he found himself over the runway and found that he was about to overshoot the runway, do you know what the guy did? He took a dive in the bid to lose altitude and land. Joe, did you know what he did? Let me show you. Let me show you with this miniature. The man suddenly found himself over the runway and was too high to touch down. See what he did? Boom, boom, straight into the ground and crushed and killed. Yes, crushed and killed everyone. It took place a few years ago in Russia. And only for investigation to show that the man wasn't a pilot. He just went into simulator training for a few weeks on how to turn around airplane in the skies and hadn't learned anything about his instruments and his stuff. And an airline, without checking, employed him. And his first flight, he slaughtered people. That's Russia for you. That's Russia for you.
That is, Nigeria is better off when it comes to checking records of our pilots. Except for the Dana crash that happened in June 3rd, 2012.
Joe, it's part of what you and I are doing here. We are adding value, aren't we? We will not be satisfied until we run straight 10 years without a crash in Nigeria, or a crash involving an airplane, from Nigeria anywhere in the world. Once we are able to do 10 straight years without that, then we can raise our thumbs and say, hey, we got there. Until that happens, Joe, we're not going to let go. That's what you and I are doing right now, adding pressure, supplying information, and mounting pressure on those who are doing this job so that they can do them better and better. We're not condemning them. We're only saying you can do better. So go ahead and do better so that you can keep us all safe and alive. So let's go for today's...
Now, we have really taken time. It's just that viewers, please understand with us, these issues are burning and we just can't keep it aside and allow...
We have only 4 clips to go actually today.
Aviation freaks not to discuss that. If you allow me, we'll just take... you have not said what should happen to Dana. You have not said what the NCAA should do to Dana.
No, it's up to NCAA
we can use that to round up. We have 4 minutes so that when we come next week, we'll do this as well. I'm sure our viewers will understand.
This is totally unacceptable.
Yes, but
people have been looking forward to this particular burning Sosoliso issue.
Remember, the aviation on ITV deals on current issues, and we just can't allow that pass by without your input.
All right. So what do you want to hear now?
Yeah, the issue about the door that Dana Airline did not close and that are fed up. What should NCAA do? What should happen to Dana? Nothing has been said.
NCAA has a duty to investigate thoroughly what went on, and it's easy to investigate, but except if somebody somewhere chooses to compromise, then what can we really do? I am not the NCAA boss, neither am I the Minister of Aviation. We can only speak here and prefer ideas,
development partner.
yes, ideas and solutions
of aviation.
If anyone is listening, that event potentially was very dangerous and could have caused a crash, could have taken lives. But like I said, since it happened on touchdown, some natural phenomena, kept that thing on check. I've told you about the atmospheric pressure and what happens up there in the skies when the cabin of the airplane is pressurized and those kind of things. And until I know which way the door fell, did it fall to the outside or did it fall into the cabin? I will not be able to analyze further. I've given the two scenarios what could have happened. However, somebody somewhere must have been careless
and needs to be punished.
It's up to NCAA to carry out necessary investigation, release the report of their findings, and then sanction the airline, accordingly. I must tell you that I am not pleased with the soft, hands with which institutions are handled in this country. I am not particularly pleased with that because that is what is increasing impunity and encouraging irresponsible conduct. We need to get more serious, and we need, I say this times without number, we need to show that we have laws, our laws have teeth, can bite,
yes,
are willing to bite, and will bite when they catch you doing the wrong things. If that signal doesn't go across, Joe, no one gets serious.
Yeah, that is one of the things that, of course, your number one aviation freak in Nigeria is really known for, talking about the law. The law should have teeth and should bite. It should show that they will bite and should be able to bite, of course. And the other part is that Nigeria should get serious, because it's only serious nation that really make it up there. I must thank you for your time. Sorry for not being able to do so. This is really burning, and I'm sure our viewers will be glad that they had some analysis from you regarding the Dana and the Russian plane that crashed at the weekend. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the program this morning on ITV continues.